I am officially single. The lawyer's pen scratches across the final page, sealing 20 years of marriage into a manila folder outside his office window. Storm clouds gather over Baton Rouge like my life decided to provide its own soundtrack, damn dramatic. Timing, the rain starts as I reach my car. Fat droplets exploding against the windshield. Dennis gets the house. I get the cottage and my mushroom consulting business fair trade. Considering what I caught him doing with his secretary. Some divorces are messy. Mine just feels empty across town. Grace Johnson wipes sweat from her forehead with a kitchen towel. Her new restaurant opens tonight, 3 years after fleeing New York, and a partnership that went sideways faster than Sewell in a thunderstorm. The Louisiana heat makes everything harder, from tempering chocolate to keeping her blonde hair out of her face behind you. Chef calls her Sue. Chef carrying a case of wine. Just Grace tonight, she says, adjusting the final plate, no more hiding behind titles or other people's expectations. 2 hours later, I'm wandering the grocery aisles like a lost tourist. Divorced people apparently eat frozen dinners and wine. Lots of wine. The sampling station near the cheese counter offers escape from my pathetic cart contents. A woman reaches for the same truffle sample I'm targeting. Blonde, intense blue eyes, hands that move with purpose. She's beautiful in that effortless way some people manage without trying. Sorry, she says, pulling back. No problem, plenty. To share, we both taste the cheese. She closes her eyes, savoring it like she's cataloging every flavor note. Professional habit. Maybe incredible truffle work, she murmurs. Most people use too much. This has restraint. She looks at me with surprise. You. No food. I know mushrooms, wild ones specifically. Grace Johnson. She extends her hand. Maya Anderson. Her grip is firm. Confident thunder crashes overhead, making us both glance toward the windows. The storm has arrived in earnest rain, hammering the parking lot like nature's own percussion section. Great timing to be grocery shopping. Grace says, great timing for everything lately. I mutter. She studies my face with those sharp blue eyes. Bad day, bad year, you terrifying year. But maybe turning. Around, something passes between us in that moment. Recognition, maybe two women standing in a grocery store, both running from something, both hoping the storm will pass soon. I run a restaurant downtown. Grace says suddenly, if you really know mushrooms, maybe we could talk. I'm always looking for local suppliers. What's the restaurant Harvest Moon? We open officially tonight. Tonight, shouldn't you be there? She glances at her phone and swears softly. Damn, you're right. I came here for last-minute supplies and lost track of time. The rain shows no sign of stopping. We're both stuck here until it passes. Strangers sharing cheese samples and life stories in bite-sized pieces want to wait it out together. I ask. Grace nods, settling against the display. Case. Tell me about your mushrooms. So I do, standing there in the fluorescent glow of the grocery store, rain drumming overhead. I tell this beautiful stranger about chanterelles and oyster mushrooms and the thrill of finding morels is after spring. Rain. She listens like my words matter. Like I matter. When the storm finally breaks, we both hesitate at the doors. Come by the restaurant sometime. Grace says, I'd love to hear more about local foraging. I might just do that. She hurries toward a beat. Up Honda, calling over her shoulder. Good luck with everything, Mia Anderson. I watch her drive away, surprised to discover I'm smiling for the first time in months. 3 days. Later, I'm leading Grace through the wetlands outside Baton Rouge, dawn mist, rising from the cypress trees like nature's own incense. She follows close behind, notepad and pencil in hand, documenting everything I show her. Oyster mushrooms. I point to clusters growing on a fallen oak. These beauties love dead hardwood after. Rain. Grace kneels beside the log, sketching. Quickly, her concentration is infectious. The way they layer like roof tiles exactly, and see how the stems are slightly off-center. She looks up at me. Dirt on her knees, hair escaping from her ponytail. Something flutters in my chest. That has nothing to do with mushroom hunting. You really love this. She says it saved my sanity after Dennis left. Being out here finding food that nobody else knows exists. Grace stands wiping her hands on her jeans. Your ex-husband. 20 years of marriage down the drain caught him with someone half my age. I'm sorry. Don't be best thing that ever happened to me. We spend the morning cataloging finds. Grace's questions reveal a chef's mind, working already planning dishes around. Each discovery. Her enthusiasm makes familiar sights feel new again. Dinner tonight? She asks as we reach our cars. I want to cook with these properly your restaurant. My restaurant after closing just does something in her voice makes my pulse quicken. Sounds perfect, Harvest Moon glows warmly as I arrive at 10 p. Last customers departing into the Louisiana night. Grace meets me at the door, still in chef whites, but looser now, more relaxed. Welcome to my kingdom, she says, leading me through dining room to kitchen. The space is immaculate steel and tile knife. Rolls arranged like surgical instruments. Grace moves through it with ballet precision, pulling ingredients from walk-in coolers. Wine, please. She pours 2 glasses of something Italian and expensive to new partnerships. We touch glasses, her fingers. Brushing mine that flutter returns stronger now. Grace cooks like she's conducting an orchestra, every movement purposeful. She sautés our morning's oyster mushrooms with garlic and fresh herbs, the aroma filling the kitchen like perfume. Taste this, she says, approaching with a forkful. I open my mouth and she feeds me slowly, watching my reaction. The mushrooms melt on my tongue, earthy and rich with just enough wine to brighten the flavor. Incredible, I breathe. They taste different when someone else harvests them more alive. Somehow we eat standing at the prep counter, talking about food and failed marriages and dreams. Deferred Grace mentions art school before culinary training, how she painted before she cooked. I still do. Sometimes she admits late at night when the restaurant is quiet. What do you paint? People faces, things that move me. The kitchen feels smaller, suddenly warm with wine and conversation, and something else building between us. Grace steps closer ostensibly to refill my glass, but she doesn't move away after pouring Maya. Yeah, I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in years. I set down my wine glass, studying her face. Me either. Grace reaches up, touching my cheek. Her palm is warm, slightly rough from kitchen work. Is this crazy? Probably good. Crazy or bad crazy. Instead of answering, I lean down and kiss her. Her lips are soft, tentative at first, then responding with surprising hunger. She tastes like wine and possibilities. When we break apart, both breathing hard, Grace rests her forehead against mine. While she whispers that changes things. Does it everything? We stand there surrounded by copper pots and hanging utensils. 2 women who found each other in a grocery store, now discovering something neither of us expected outside Baton Rouge sleeps. But in this kitchen, everything feels wide awake and full of promise. Stay for coffee, Grace asks. I'd like that. She starts the espresso machine, hands shaking slightly. Whatever. This is between us. It's real enough to matter. Complicated enough to scare us both. The pounding on my cottage door comes at 7 Wasay. 3 days after that kitchen kiss. Dennis stands on my porch in his expensive suit jaw, tight with the kind of anger that used to make me apologize for existing. We need to talk about what the divorce is final. He pushes past me into the living room, scanning the space like he's cataloging assets he missed about this new life you're building. People are talking Mia. What people? Country club. People business. People, they're saying you're running around with some chef from downtown. My blood chills. That's none of your business anymore. It is, when it affects my reputation. 20 years of marriage doesn't just disappear because you sign papers. He moves closer, using his height to intimidate like always. But something's different now. I don't shrink. Back. Get out, Dennis. I'm serious about this. Whatever phase you're going through, end it before people start asking questions I don't want to answer. The only question people should ask is why I stayed married to a cheating bastard for so long. His face darkens, Watch yourself, Mia. I still have friends in this town after he leaves. I sit shaking in my kitchen, coffee growing cold in my hands. 20 years of conditioning doesn't disappear overnight, no matter how strong you think you've become. Meanwhile, Grace paces her apartment above the restaurant, bare feet on hardwood floors. Rain streaks the windows, matching the storm in her chest. She's been with men her whole life. Serious relationships, even an engagement that fell apart when she chose culinary. School over wedding plans. But this thing with Mia feels different. Bigger, terrifying in ways she can't name. Her phone buzzes with texts from her mother in New York, asking about the restaurant, about whether she's met anyone. Nice is simple when your world just tilted sideways. Grace opens her sketchbook trying to capture what she's feeling in charcoal strokes. But every drawing becomes Mia's face. Those green eyes that see everything, hands that know secrets about growing. Things by evening she's worked herself into a frenzy of doubt. This is crazy. She's crazy. Successful women don't throw away everything for a kiss in a kitchen. The restaurant buzzes with dinner service, but Grace moves through it mechanically, her usual passion dampened by confusion when the last customer leaves and the staff cleans up. She retreats to the storage room to inventory supplies. That's where I find her. An hour later, crying quietly among boxes of imported olive oil and artisol, vinegars Grace. She wipes her eyes quickly. Sorry. I'm fine. No, you're not. I step into the cramped space, closing the door behind me. Talk to me. I don't know how to do this. She whispers. Do what feel this way about a woman. Feel this way about you. Reach for her hands, pulling her closer. There's no instruction manual. I scared myself today, thinking about you, constantly wanting to call you, canceling plans, just to replay that kiss in my head. Grace, I've never been with a woman. Mia, I don't know. The rules. Neither do I. We make our own rules. She looks up at me, eyes red but determined. What if I'm terrible at this? What if you're perfect at it? I kiss her. And there among the restaurant supplies, tasting salt from her tears and something deeper, underneath she responds immediately. This time, no hesitation. Her body pressing against mine, like she's been waiting all day for this moment when we break apart. Both breathing hard, Grace loops her arms around my neck. Dennis came to see me today. I tell her, warned me to end whatever this is. Are you going to hell? No, but I need to know you're in this with me, really. In this, Grace. Studies my face in the dim storage room. Light, I've never wanted anything more in my life. Even if it gets complicated. Especially if it gets complicated. She kisses me again, fierce this time. Like she's claiming something that belongs to her. I can taste her decision in that kiss. Feel her walls coming down brick by brick. Outside Baton Rouge settles into another, humid night. But in this storage room, 2 women are writing their own rules. 1 kiss at a time. 3 weeks of secret meetings. Follow, we develop our own language of hidden touches and coded looks. Grace shows me hidden trails through Audubon Park, where we can walk hand in hand without watching over our shoulders. I teach her the art of patience that mushroom hunting requires. Tell me about your marriage, she says one afternoon, lying beside me on a blanket under ancient oak trees. What do? You want to know when you knew it was over. I watched Spanish moss sway above us, the night I realized I'd been performing happiness. Instead of feeling it, 20 years of being who Dennis wanted, instead of who I was. And now I'm remembering who. I was before I got lost. Grace traces patterns on my arm. I broke up with James because he wanted me to quit cooking. Said successful wives don't work in kitchens. Idiot. Complete idiot. These stolen afternoons become precious conversations ranging from childhood dreams to fears we've never spoken aloud. Grace tells me about painting portraits in art school, how she loved capturing the moment when her subjects forgot to pose. I still do it. Sometimes she admits paint sketch people when they don't know I'm watching, trying to catch their real selves at harvest moon. Grace creates a new tasting menu inspired by our foraging expeditions. Each dish tells a story. Only we understand hen of the woods, mushrooms with bourbon reduction chanterelle, risotto finished with local honey oyster mushroom flatbread that tastes like morning mist. Food critics start taking notice. The Times-Picayune runs a feature about her innovative use of Louisiana ingredients. Grace downplays the attention, but I see her pride when she thinks nobody's looking. You're building something special here. I tell her, watching her prep for evening service. We're building something special. This is your dream. You're part of that dream now. The night everything changes. Starts like any other. Grace closes the restaurant early, claiming equipment maintenance. We share a bottle of wine in the empty dining room, talking until midnight. Stay tonight, she says suddenly. Hear my apartment upstairs. I've seen glimpses of her, living space during stolen moments, but never the bedroom. Following her up the narrow staircase feels like crossing a threshold. We can't uncross. Her apartment reflects her personality. Clean lines, pops of color, canvases stacked against walls. She hasn't shown me yet. The bedroom is simple, but warm. Fairy lights strung along the headboard like captured stars. Are you sure about this? I ask. I've never been more sure of anything. Grace disappears into the bathroom, returning in an oversized t-shirt that skims her thighs without makeup, hair loose around her shoulders. She looks younger, vulnerable. Come here, she says. I cross the room slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But when I reach the bed, she pulls me down beside her with steady hands. I've been thinking about this for weeks. She whispers, me too. We kiss, with 3 weeks of restraint finally breaking free. Her hands explore with increasing confidence, mapping territory. We've both been curious about when she pulls my shirt over my head. Her eyes hold wonder instead of uncertainty. You're beautiful. She breathes. So are you? We move together with surprising synchronization. Bodies learning each other's rhythms. Grace is generous with touch, patient with discovery. When she trails kisses down my throat, I arch beneath her, surrendering to sensations I'd forgotten were possible. Moonlight streams through lace curtains, painting patterns on skin entangled. Sheets. Every caress writes poetry on nerve endpoints. Grace makes soft sounds of pleasure that drive me wild with want. Afterward, we lie entwined, breathing slowly, returning to normal. That was... Grace starts. Yeah, better than I imagined you imagined. It... She laughs against my shoulder constantly, embarrassingly. Often I kiss the top of her head, tasting shampoo and satisfaction. No regrets, only that we waited so long outside. Baton Rouge sleeps through another humid night. But in this bed, wrapped in Grace's arms, I feel like I'm finally where I belong. No more performing, no more hiding. Just two women who found each other and refused to let go. Theodore Anderson calls me at 6 Mackay. His voice tight with excitement. Strange. Considering we haven't spoken since my cousin's funeral. 2 years ago. He owns a respected gallery downtown, deals in serious art that actual collectors buy. Maya, you need to get down here immediately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. There's a portrait in today's auction catalog that you absolutely must see. I stumbled to my coffee maker, phone pressed between shoulder and ear. Theodore, it's barely dawn. The auction house scent advanced. Catalogs yesterday. Lot 47. High-end contemporary portraiture. 6-figure starting bid. Good for them. Why does this matter to me? Long pause. Because it's you. Mia, the portrait is of you. My coffee mug hits the floor. Ceramic shards scattering across. Tile. That's impossible. I'm looking at it right now. Professional quality oil on canvas. The subject is definitely you, but painted with intimacy that suggests the artist knows you extremely well. Who painted it? Anonymous. Submission artist goes by. Initials only GJ, my blood freezes. GJ Grace Johnson, I'm coming over, bring coffee. This is going to be a long conversation. 20 minutes later, I'm staring at myself on glossy auction house paper. The painting captures me in profile, looking toward something. Outside the frame with expression I've never seen in mirrors. Thoughtful. Peaceful. Beautiful. Even like someone painted me through the lens of love. Whoever did this knows you intimately. Theodore says, studying my face the way they captured the light. In your eyes, the exact shade of your hair. This isn't painted from photographs. When was this submitted? 3 weeks ago. Anonymous drop-off with professional documentation and provenance papers. Everything legitimate except the artist's identity. 3 weeks ago. Right. When Grace and I started our secret meetings, my hands shake as I examine every brush stroke, recognizing her careful attention to detail. The auction house is promoting it heavily. Mystery always drives prices up, especially when the work is this good. How good museum quality. Whoever GJ is, they have serious talent. I drive straight to Harvest Moon, finding Grace prepping vegetables for lunch service. She looks up with that smile that still makes my pulse quicken. But something flickers behind her eyes when she sees my expression. We need to talk. What's wrong? I place the auction catalog on her prep counter. Open to lot 47. Grace's knife stops moving. Color drains from her face. You painted me, Mia. I can explain how I never posed for this. Grace sets down her knife, wiping hands on her apron. Late nights after service. I've been sketching you for weeks, then working from memory. I couldn't help myself, and you submitted it to auction without telling me I didn't submit anything. I swear we stare at each other across the prep counter, the portrait lying between us like evidence of something neither can deny. Then how did it get there? I have no idea. Grace disappears into her office, returning with a portfolio I've never seen. She opens it carefully, revealing dozens of drawings and paintings. All of me. Sketches from our park. Walks. Detailed studies of my hands. Full paintings. Capturing moments I didn't know she was documenting Grace. I know how this looks, but I've never shown these to anyone. They're private. The artwork is stunning. Each piece revealing how she sees me, not the performed version I showed Dennis for 20 years, but something deeper. The real me, I'm still learning to recognize. Someone took. One, she says quietly. Someone was in my apartment who has keys. Just me in the building. Super, and she stops, face going pale. And who I gave Theodore a spare key last month when I was having electrical work done. Asked him to let the contractors in. When I couldn't be here, Theodore. My cousin Theodore, who just happened to call about a mysterious portrait by GJ at precisely 6 Mara A. That bastard? I breathe, he's your cousin. Distant cousin. We barely speak except at funerals. Grace closes the portfolio. Hands trembling. He stole my painting and submitted it for auction. Probably figures he can launch your career and take a commission. But I never wanted this public. These are personal. I reach across the prep counter, taking her hands. We'll figure this out. The whole city will see it. Mia, everyone will know how I feel about you. It's written all over that painting. She's right? The portrait doesn't just show my face. It reveals the artist's heart. Every brushstroke speaks of careful observation, deep affection, growing love. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. I say quietly, your ex-husband will see it, your business contacts. Everyone let them. Grace looks up, surprised by the steel in my voice. I'm tired of hiding who I am. I continue, tired of caring what other people think. This could ruin us both, or it could set us free. The lunch rush approaches, kitchen staff arriving for prep. But Grace pulls me into the storage room, closing the door behind us. I'm scared. She whispers me too. But not sorry. I kiss her. Then fierce and claiming, never sorry. The auction catalog makes front page of the lifestyle section by Thursday. Morning mystery portrait commands high bidding, reads the headline. My face staring back from news stands across Baton Rouge. The art critic calls it an intimate masterpiece that captures the soul of contemporary Louisiana womanhood. Grace finds me reading the article at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold in my hands. It gets worse, I say, showing her my phone channel. 6 wants to interview the mystery subject for tonight's news. We could leave town for a few days running away. Won't make this disappear. The phone rings constantly. Old friends. Curious about my sudden fame, business contacts asking if I'm available. For mushroom foraging segments on morning television. Everyone wants a piece of the story. But it's Dennis who causes real damage. He shows up at Grace's restaurant during lunch service, striding through the dining room like he owns the place. Several customers recognize him from country club events. "Miss Johnson," he says loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "We need to discuss your little art project." Grace appears from the kitchen still in Chef White's. This isn't the time or place, on the contrary. This is exactly the time and place. My ex-wife's face is splashed across every newspaper in Louisiana. People are asking questions. I don't appreciate. Lower your voice. I know what you are. Dennis continues his words. Sharp as blade cuts, what you've turned Mia into 20 years of marriage doesn't get thrown away for some experimental phase. The dining room goes quiet. Conversations stopping mid-sentence. Grace's staff peers out from kitchen doors, sensing trouble. "Leave. Now," Grace says. Voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. "This isn't over. I have lawyers' connections, people who care about family values in this community." After he leaves, Grace retreats to her office while the sous chef handles service. I find her there an hour later, staring at her phone with hollow eyes. 3 investors called this morning, she says without looking up, concerned about the restaurant's image, wondering if they should reconsider their backing. They can't pull out. Over gossip. They can do whatever they want. This is Louisiana. Mia. Old money, old families, old prejudices. I sit across from her desk watching her world crumble in real time. We'll fight this with what I sunk everything into this place. If I lose investor, backing the restaurant dies. Then we find new investors who, the kind of people with real money in this town, don't back openly gay restaurant tours. Not here. The word hangs between us, gay. We've been dancing around it for weeks, but Dennis forced it into daylight with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Is that what we are? I ask quietly. Grace meets my eyes for the first time since I arrived. I don't know what we are, but apparently everyone else has decided for us that evening brings worse. News: the local food magazine calls to cancel Grace's upcoming cover story. The Chamber of Commerce withdraws their invitation for her to cater the Merchants Association gala. 24 hours of exposure has undone months of professional building, I find. Grace in the restaurant after closing. Sitting alone at table 12 with a bottle of wine and the auction catalog drowning your sorrows. Calculating losses. I pour myself wine from her bottle. Studying the portrait that started everything, the painted version of myself looks confident, happy, loved. Hard to believe that face could cause such destruction. Do you regret painting it? I ask every day, but not for the reasons you think. What reasons? Grace traces the edge of the catalog with one finger. I regret that someone can take something beautiful and turn it into ammunition, that love becomes scandal when the wrong people find out about it. It doesn't have to be scandal. Tell that to my investors. We sit in silence, the empty restaurant echoing, with unspoken fears. Everything we've built separately and together hangs in the balance, threatened by people who think they have the right to judge how other people love. There's something else, Grace says. Finally, Theodore called today. What did? He want to apologize and to tell me the painting sold for $80. Zero, damn. He's offering to split the proceeds with me, says it's only fair since I'm the actual artist. That's something $40,000, won't save the restaurant if investors bail, but it might buy time to find new ones. I reach across the table, covering her hand with mine. We'll figure this out together if you want me to stay. Grace lifts our joined hands, kissing my knuckles softly. I want you to stay through everything, even if it costs us both, especially then outside the French Quarter settles. into its nightly rhythm of jazz and revelry. But inside Harvest Moon, two women make quiet promises to face whatever storm is coming. One day at a time, Theodore's gallery buzzes with opening night energy, crystal glasses clinking against murmured conversations about art and commerce. He found Grace's hidden portfolio after the auction scandal broke, spent 2 weeks convincing her to let him mount a proper show. 43 paintings, he tells us, adjusting his bow tie nervously, all featuring the same subject, all painted with extraordinary intimacy. I study my face reflected in oil and watercolor across white gallery walls. Grace captured me, gardening, reading, sleeping, existing in moments I never knew were being documented. The collection tells our love story without words. I still can't believe you did this, Grace whispers, straightening a painting near the entrance. You're an artist, Grace. Real artists don't hide their work in closets. The preview draws serious collectors. Theodore points out museum curators, established galleries, owners, people who buy art as investment rather than decoration. But it's the unexpected attendees that surprise us. Local chefs arrive in groups, sous chefs and pastry artists who respect Grace's kitchen skills regardless of personal politics. Several food critics appear, notebooks in hand, treating this as extension of their restaurant coverage. Miss Johnson, a distinguished woman, approaches Grace. Margaret Russo from the Contemporary Art Center. We'd like to discuss a possible exhibition. Grace glances at me, hardly believing what she's hearing. What kind of exhibition? Emerging Louisiana artists we showcase. Promising talent quarterly. Your work shows remarkable technical skill and emotional depth. As Margaret walks away with business card in hand, Grace grabs my arm. Did that really just happen? It really just happened. But our celebration gets cut short. When Dennis arrives with 2 other men in expensive suits, they move through the gallery like sharks smelling blood, loud enough to draw attention. Interesting choice of subject matter, Dennis announces to his companions, near painting number 17. 20 years of marriage, and apparently I never really knew my wife. Conversations around us. Pause. Theodore hurries over, trying to defuse the situation. With professional charm, gentlemen, welcome to tonight's exhibition. Perhaps I could show you some other pieces. No need, Dennis says, positioning himself directly in front of my favorite painting. This one tells the whole story. Amazing what people will do for attention these days. Dennis, don't, I warn, stepping between him and the portrait. Don't what exercise my right to attend public events. Comment on publicly displayed artwork featuring my ex-wife Grace appears at my side. Jaw set with determination. This is my exhibition. I'm asking you to leave your exhibition of what exactly? Obsessive documentation of another woman. There are names for what you are. Sweetheart. The gallery goes completely quiet. Even the jazz quartet stops playing. Yes, there are, Grace says, clearly her voice carrying to every corner of the space. I'm an artist. I'm a chef. I'm a woman who fell in love with an extraordinary person who happens to be another woman. She takes my hand, holding it high enough for everyone to see. I painted these because Mia Anderson is the most beautiful person I've ever met inside and out. If that makes me something you can't understand, that's your limitation. Not mine. Scattered applause starts near the back of the gallery, spreading forward as people realize what they're witnessing. Theodore begins clapping enthusiastically. Margaret Russo joins in. Soon the entire room erupts in support. Dennis's face darkens as his intimidation backfires spectacularly. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I say firmly. You don't get to police who I love, or how Grace expresses her art, find something else to be angry about. He leaves with his cronies, the gallery atmosphere immediately lightening after their departure. Grace pulls me toward the back hallway, past restrooms toward Theodore's private office. I can't believe you just did that. I breathe once we're alone. I can't believe I waited so long to do it. She's shaking with adrenaline, eyes bright with the rush of finally speaking truth. In public, I back her against the office door, kissing her with weeks of pent-up frustration and pride. You were magnificent out there, I murmur against her throat. We were magnificent. Her hands tangle in my hair as we kiss desperately. Months of hiding, exploding into pure hunger when she unbuttons my blouse with trembling fingers. I don't stop her when I lift her skirt in Theodore's cramped office. She gasps encouragement. We come together frantically, quietly, surrounded by filing cabinets and art catalogues. While our celebration continues in the next room, Grace moves against me with fierce joy, claiming this moment after everything we've survived afterward. We straighten clothes and hair, trying to look presentable for our return to the gallery. No regrets, I ask, smoothing her skirt. Only that we can't do it again right now. We rejoin the exhibition as Theodore announces sales figures, 6 paintings sold in the first hour with serious inquiries about commissioning new work. Ladies, he approaches, with champagne flutes. I believe congratulations are in order. You've just launched Grace's art career in spectacular fashion and created the biggest scandal this town's seen in years. I add the best kind of scandal, the kind that makes people think. As the evening winds down, Grace and I stand before the portrait that started everything. The painted version of myself looks prophetic, now gazing toward a future I couldn't have imagined. 6 months ago. What happens next? Grace asks. We keep building. Your restaurant, your art, us together. Especially together, the gallery empties slowly. But we stay until the end, surrounded by evidence of how love looks when someone brave enough captures it. Honestly, gallery sales transform everything within 3 weeks. Grace's artwork sells faster than Theodore can catalog it, with waiting lists for commissioned pieces. 2 serious collectors track me down, offering to pay premium prices for Grace to paint their portraits, suddenly being the muse to a rising artist feels like fame adjacent. More importantly, the Contemporary Arts Center confirms an exhibition slot in their spring rotation. Grace works evenings and weekends preparing new pieces, converting the apartment above Harvest Moon into a proper studio space. Look at this, she says, showing me a letter on museum letterhead. The Ogden wants to purchase Morning Light for their permanent collection. The one where I'm reading by the window, $2. A 0 for one painting. Mia, I never imagined art could actually pay bills. But it's the collaboration that excites us most. Grace starts illustrating my field guides to Louisiana, edible plants, botanical drawings that complement my mushroom expertise. The combination attracts publishers from New York agents who see potential in our partnership. Harvest Moon benefits from all the attention food bloggers discover Grace's innovative cuisine while researching the Artist Angle Reservations book. Weeks in advance. 3 investors who initially wavered now compete to increase their backing, recognizing successful ventures regardless of the owner's personal life. Amazing how money changes perspectives. Grace says, counting reservation requests. Same food, same chef. But now I'm fascinating instead of problematic. Success has that effect, cynical but true. On a crisp October morning, Grace suggests we revisit the wetlands where I first taught her about mushroom hunting. The air smells of turning leaves and distant rain. Louisiana's version of autumn settling over everything I've been thinking about that first day. She says, kneeling beside the same fallen oak where we found oyster mushrooms. How nervous I was trying to impress you with my food knowledge. You did. Impress me still. Do. I was falling in love even then. Watching you move through these woods like you belonged here, completely. I'd never seen anyone so comfortable in their own skin. Grace pulls a small velvet box from her jacket pocket, opening it to reveal a simple gold band, set with tiny emeralds. Grace, I know we've only known each other 8 months. I know moving fast might be crazy, but I also know I want to spend every day learning more about you, about us. She shifts onto one knee beside the mushroom log, holding the ring with hands that barely tremble. Mia, Anderson, will you marry me? Will you let me paint you for the rest of our lives? The proposal hits me like revelation. Not the surprise of it, which I should have seen coming, but the absolute certainty of my answer. Yes. Yes, of course. Yes, I pull her up for a kiss that tastes like tears and laughter, and promises we're both ready to keep when we break apart. Grace slides the ring onto my finger with reverent care. It fits perfectly. I measured your finger while you slept. Artist's attention to detail. We walk back through the wetlands, hand in hand engaged, now planning a future that encompasses restaurants and galleries and field guides filled with graces. Illustrations the practicalities can wait for. Now, it's enough to know we're choosing each other officially that evening. Harvest Moon celebrates with champagne service for every table. Grace announces our engagement to the evening crowd generating applause and toasts from strangers who followed our story through gallery exhibitions and newspaper coverage to Grace and Mia. Theodore calls out from table 6. May your love inspire art for decades to come to new beginnings, adds Margaret Rousseau, raising her wine glass, and women brave enough to create them. We accept congratulations from customers, staff, friends who've supported us through scandal and success. But later, after the restaurant closes, we climb to Grace's apartment for private celebration. How does it feel? She asks, pouring wine in her studio. Being engaged like coming home to myself. No second thoughts about marrying a scandalous artist. None whatsoever. Grace shows me sketches for paintings she wants to create. Wedding. Portraits. Domestic scenes. Documentation of life we're building together. Her vision encompasses years of shared moments. Artistic legacy built on love that refused to hide. You realize people will be watching us constantly. She says, waiting to see if we last. If this was real or just drama for publicity, let them watch. We'll give them something worth seeing. 1 year from now, we'll open our joint venture space, downtown gallery and restaurant, sharing the same building Grace's art displayed, alongside experimental cuisine inspired by my foraging discoveries. But tonight we're just 2 women celebrating engagement in an apartment filled with paintings of their love story. I have something for you too, I say, pulling out a small wrapped box. Grace opens it carefully, revealing a vintage compass engraved with our initials for all the adventures ahead. Perfect. We fall asleep tangled together. Engagement ring catching moonlight surrounded by canvases that document how we found each other and chose to stay found. Our wedding happens 6 months later in the garden behind Harvest Moon. Fairy lights strung between oak trees like captured stars. 50 guests gather on a perfect April evening spring air suite with jasmine and possibility. Grace wears her grandmother's vintage dress, cream silk that catches candlelight when she moves. I chose deep emerald green that matches my engagement ring. Both of us, having decided formal white felt too conventional for who we've become. Theodore walks Grace down the makeshift aisle between restaurant tables, moved outdoors for the occasion. Margaret Rousseau serves as my witness, the woman who first recognized Grace's artistic talent, now celebrating our personal milestone. Dearly Beloved begins, the efficient judge who became our friend during the legal battles that followed our public coming out. We gather tonight to celebrate love that refused to hide art, that demanded recognition and courage, that inspired an entire community. Grace's vows bring tears to half the audience she speaks about. Painting me before she knew she loved me, about finding home in another person. After years of searching, when she promises to document our life together, 1 canvas at a time, my own tears fall. Freely my vows focus on gratitude for mushroom hunting, that led to grocery store encounters for Dennis's cruelty, that forced honesty for Grace's bravery in claiming us publicly. When I still wanted to hide, I promised to forage through life with you, I say, voice steady, despite emotion, threatening to overwhelm, to find beauty in unexpected places, to nurture growth. Wherever we settle, we exchange rings as the sun sets behind cypress trees, sealing promises witnessed by everyone who helped us survive the transition from secret lovers to celebrated partnership. The reception unfolds like perfect collaboration. Grace's staff serves dishes inspired by our foraging adventures, each plate telling stories only we fully understand. Theodore displays smaller paintings around the garden, intimate portraits documenting our courtship that guests study between dinner courses. Speech, Speech calls someone from table 3. Grace and I stand together before our assembled community hands joined. Wedding rings catching firelight from garden torches. A year ago, Grace begins. I was hiding in storage rooms, crying about feelings I didn't understand tonight. I'm married to the most extraordinary woman I've ever met, surrounded by friends who supported us when support felt impossible. We're here because people believed our love deserved celebration, instead of judgment. I add because art matters, because truth matters, because refusing to be ashamed changes. Everything applause echoes through the garden as we kiss. Officially married, now ready for whatever adventures await. Dancing follows dinner. Jazz quartet, playing standards while couples move under starlight grace. And I share first dance to something slow and sweet, her head on my shoulder. Both of us still amazed this day actually happened. Any regrets? She whispers about marrying you. Never about giving up quiet private life. We were never meant for quiet later, after guests depart and cleanup finishes. We climb to the apartment that will soon become shared studio space. Our downtown building renovation completes next month's gallery and restaurant combination that represents everything we've built together. Look what came today, Grace says, showing me an envelope from New York publisher. They want to fast-track the field guide, full-color illustrations, national distribution book tour, in major markets. Serious Grace. Johnson and Mia Anderson, botanical collaborators. We open champagne in our wedding clothes, toasting. Success that feels surreal after months of uncertainty. The city spread below us twinkles with promise. 2 women who found love and grocery store sampling stations now planning artistic empire built on shared passions. What do you think we'll look like in 10 years? Grace asks, curled against me on the studio couch. Older, wiser, still impossible to separate, still scandalous. I hope so. 1 year later, Gallery Harvest opens to lines around the block. Food critics and art reviewers compete for reservations at our restaurant, where Grace cooks experimental cuisine alongside rotating exhibitions of emerging artists. My field guides become bestsellers. Grace's botanical illustrations reproduced in museums nationwide. But it's the quiet moments I treasure most: morning coffee shared before either business opens Grace painting, while I write comfortable silence punctuated by gentle conversation. Evening walks through French Quarter streets, where we no longer hide affection or worry about judgment. Remember when you thought this was complicated? Grace says one autumn evening, standing before her latest painting. The canvas shows us foraging together. Morning light filtering through wetland. Trees. But unlike her early secret portraits, this one celebrates partnership openly. 2 women working together, learning from each other, building something beautiful from shared curiosity. Everything worthwhile is complicated, I reply. Wrapping arms around her waist, we just decided complicated was better than easy. Grace leans back against my chest. Both of us studying her artistic documentation of our life together. Gallery walls display our love story in oils and watercolors, each painting marking growth from hidden attraction to celebrated partnership. Any regrets? She asks, echoing our wedding night conversation. Only that we can't go back and tell our frightened selves how perfectly everything works out. They wouldn't have believed us anyway. Probably not. Outside Baton Rouge settles into another humid evening, jazz drifting from nearby clubs. Tourists wandering cobblestone streets in search of authentic Louisiana experiences. But inside our gallery, surrounded by art that celebrates love discovered late, but embraced completely. 2 women plan tomorrow's adventures with confidence earned through surviving every storm together.